This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Coffee with Kenobi. I am your host, Dan Z, live at the D23 Expo in August 2019. I've been a lifelong Disney fan, about as long as I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan. I proposed to my wife at Walt Disney World. We had our honeymoon at Disney World in the Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Dream. I worked there in college, of course, in the college program, which we talked about on a recent Looking at Lucasfilm with Jim Hill. And it's just magic. I mean, you've got, of course, Lucasfilm, where my heart is. But then you've got Marvel and Disney live action, Disney animation, the theme parks, just everything. This place is so great. I'm recording this now from my hotel room after being at the Disney Studios movie panel. I was going to record last night, but I got in so late, and it was just going to be, I would have been rather incoherent. It wouldn't have been as engaging to listen to, although maybe it would have been really entertaining because I was so tired. But this is much better because I can focus on what really matters, and that is the incredible electric experience of being in that room for the premiere of, well, so many great things. The way that it works when you are media, if you are someone who gets a media pass, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get reserved seating for any of the panels, but I was able to secure that, which is really, really great. Thank you again to Disney and Disney Studios for making that happen for me. You go and you get your media pass, and then you go to one of the other windows. Actually went to window C outside the convention center, and that is where I secured my little wristband so I could go get media seating for this event. So I live tweeted it, and I appreciate everyone following along and liking and retweeting because it sure got a lot of buzz, which is always great for me in the show. But they started off with Kathleen Kennedy coming out, and then the Rise of Skywalker cast shows up. Kerry Russell was there. This is the first time she's ever been out in Star Wars capacity, so I was very happy to get to see that. And then she joked about being, not joked, but she said, hey, I'm from Poe's past. And then Oscar Isaac got up as his charming self and said, hey, everybody's got a past, we're all young ones, and everybody kind of laughed and joked. I don't think that's indicative of the characters at all or anything like that. But it was definitely very engaging and fun, and just the energy, the electricity was spectacular. And then Kathleen Kennedy said, I've got a new poster for you to see, and everyone's going to get one, which of course I did, which is gorgeous. You have all no doubt seen it already online. It's got the stunning image of Kylo Ren and Rey fighting on this precipice. Kind of looks like where Simba first is presented to the kingdom in The Lion King, Pride Rock. But then it's got blue and red in the background and lightning, and then you can see, if you really look, and I didn't notice this initially when I was inside that room, you can see the Emperor looking on. It's so creepy and beautiful. I mean, these preview posters are always so awesome anyway. I'm not sure if this is the final poster for the movie or not, but hey, it is spectacular, no doubt about that. It seems like these preview posters are always really stunning. And then we got to see, they call them the sizzle reel, but it's not. It wasn't like behind the scenes stuff. It was just kind of clips and images of things. We got to see a lot of great stuff. I've still only seen it once at the time of this. And actually, I don't even know, and by the time you hear this on the podcast, I'm sure everyone will have seen it. I feel like they're not going to show it to everybody for a couple days. But look, I heard Darth Vader's breathing, and I saw something I legitimately never thought I would see, and that was Rey in a black hood looking angry and menacing and serious, and she opens up and unhooks this unusual looking double-bladed red lightsaber. I could not believe what I was seeing. It was shocking. It was stunning. The place was aghast, and I yelled out, "No, come on!" because I don't want that to happen. I don't know what it means. I don't look at speculation, of course. I don't do the rumor thing. I know that the way that made me feel and the way that people in that room felt, over 7,000 people in that room, was electric. Just talking about it now, you get that goosebump moment. It was spectacular. My goodness. And then, very, very fortunate that I got to be in the room with so many big stars. I mean, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he's the biggest star in Hollywood. I got to see him. He is the biggest man now that I've ever seen in my life. I used to say that about Hulk Hogan, but no. Now Hogan's a little bit taller, but The Rock is just so big. He's just an absolute beast. Is he eating the weights? I don't know, but he was awesome, insanely charismatic, as I knew from his stints on Saturday Night Live and, of course, WWE and all of his films. Emily Blunt, their chemistry was so great and charming, the way they would banter. And they did something really brilliant. They had something where The Rock came out and said, in the tradition of Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones and, Romancing the Stone and all these movies, this big jungle action-adventure movie. And he shows a trailer which very much shows him front and center, which you don't really bat an eye because he's, The Rock. And then Emily Blunt looks like the damsel in distress. And at the end of the trailer, he says, in great tradition, the man rescues the woman. And then all of a sudden, you hear this, hold on. And Emily Blunt comes out. They both came out in Jungle Cruise actual boats, which was super cool. And she said, no, I've got a trailer for you. And she says to The Rock, did you cut that trailer yourself? Come on. And so she shows the trailer again, but it's all from her character's perspective, where she's very much the lead, and she doesn't look like a damsel in distress at all. She's kicking butt. And then they show her name, and then they show Dwayne Johnson's name. It's really, really small. It was just really smart marketing. The way they played that up, I thought was brilliant. It was genius. Just tremendous, tremendous fun. And then, oh my gosh, just look at all the tweets, but so many fun things. Highlights for me, getting to see Sterling K. Brown live. Julie Louis-Dreyfus is a huge Seinfeld fan. I thought that was great. Tina Fey. Angelina Jolie and the cast of The Eternals come out, including Selma Hayek, which was remarkable. And then getting to see Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. They were the voices for Onward, the future Pixar movie, which I was not originally sold on, but this looks spectacular. And, Tom Holland at the end. We all know what's going on with Tom Holland and the Spider-Man franchise and its connection to Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He came out and he said, look, I know it's been a crazy week, but he thanked everybody, and then he said, I love you all 3,000. And it looked like he was choked up. It was emotional. It was great. I'm very lucky. I can't say enough. I'm so blessed to get a chance to do something like this, see all these big stars in person. And I got to see Angelina Jolie. She's a massive star as well. Of course, the entire Episode 9 cast, as I mentioned. I'm probably babbling because I'm just so excited. And I still have rarely walked the show floor at all, so I'm going to go do that. Hopefully we'll find some people, get some interviews to put on the show. But seriously, so much more to come. Hope you're watching us on social media, because the best is yet to come, my friends. A red lightsaber? Are you kidding me? We're here live on the D23 studio floor. We are here with Daniel Kennedy, the event coordinator for Lucasfilm. Daniel, welcome to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. It's great to see you. You have done some amazing stuff here. Tell us what went into the planning of putting all of these stormtroopers on this stage.
Yeah, so we wanted to kind of bring something that tied in everything throughout the saga, and we were brainstorming, my boss Esty and I, kind of conceptualizing ideas of what we can do for fans, and it just kind of came naturally that we could find a focus on stormtroopers because there's so many of them, and they're just drastically changed from A New Hope all the way to the new movie Rise of Skywalker.
Right, and it was cool because I'm going to take some videos and some pictures. I saw people taking really detailed photos and talking to their friends and their spouses and saying, I can do that, I can make that. And they were like cosplay planning just by looking at this.
Oh, it's amazing. I saw somebody come with a Flame Trooper costume that they had made, and I was like, it's so good, I almost wanted to put them on stage. They would have fit right in with the exhibit. We love bringing this kind of stuff, and some of these costumes, you don't really get to see very often. Everybody's seen, the TK from A New Hope and things like that, but the Shore Trooper and the Death Trooper and like the First Order TIE Fighter pilot, we don't really get to bring those around very often. They're at junkets and things like that, but any opportunity that we have to bring costumes to the fans, that's something that we really enjoy.
Or while we're talking, there's that Mickey Mouse parade coming by, which is not something that you can honestly say every day of your life.
Yeah, how many conventions have a parade go right through the film?
Is there a particular armor design? For me, I think the Shore Trooper is so cool. The Sith Trooper's amazing. The classic is good. The AT-ACT Driver, which is in here, I love that armor. But Which ones do you really kind of gravitate toward?
The Death Trooper to me, because he's just got all the little fixings, on his costumes. He's got the grenade pack. His blaster is also really cool, and then they've got the long rifle. I think you only see it for a little bit in Rogue One, but I got to carry that. We made a replica of it for the costumes when the movies come out, and it's so heavy and just felt so good. It was just fun to carry. That's my favorite, but honestly, the Sith Trooper, I've been looking at it, obviously, for a while since we got to San Diego Comic-Con here. I just can't get over it. The notches, and it's just so slick, and I'm just in love with it.
Well, there is a ton of detail that people, first, I heard some say it's a red stripe, but no, it's really not. If you look at it, the intricacy and the detail in the armor, that is no joke. That must take a lot of time.
I can only imagine. We got a little bit of a BTS clip of it on our Evolution of Stormtrooper video of them making several of them, and I just can't imagine when you see it. They're putting together all the pieces of the helmet, and it's multi pieces of them, and they're making so many items. There are probably so many man hours to make this.
So
it shows it.
Oh my God! Hasbro's kind of sent me the one from Comic-Con that they sent out, and just look at that figure. It's absolutely gorgeous. So you got this incredible display. Tell me about the manpower and the hours to design, execute, and come to life.
Sure. So we partner with Freeman XP. They're our partners. They're the general contractor for the show here at D23, and actually also San Diego Comic-Con. So we kind of lay out what we want to do as far as the idea with the LED screen and the costume display, and then they kind of just help us execute it from building the structure and the stage and things like that, and then it's just kind of culmination of all these people kind of coming together. We started install on Tuesday morning, so we do pre-rigging for all the truss systems and things like that, and then once we get that laid out and the screen laid out, then we kind of bring in everything else and just start to slowly put it together. And then probably about Thursday by noon, so it's about 2 days. It's all up and ready to go.
So is Daniel Kennedy up there putting the armor together? Are you?
I'm definitely helping lift them up, but I don't like to touch things that I'm going to get in trouble for. So we leave that to our physical assets team, Madeline and Portia, and they do all the shimmying and shining and making sure all the costumes look really good.
Well, and you're I'd be the same way. And then plus you've got to think about the lighting, and especially with Phasma, that's got to be a photographer's challenge to be sure, because it's shiny armor.
Well, we definitely make sure we turn off these overhead lights to kind of give it a little bit of a dim look, and then we use basically a professional lighting company to help us kind of doing all these costumes. Luckily, at San Diego Comic-Con, we got to kind of fine-tune all that. We have changed the order here for D23, but I saw a bunch of people reading into the order that we used at San Diego Comic-Con.
Of course.
And really, here it's just mostly to highlight the new costumes, our Jet Trooper and Sith Trooper.
You obviously have been to many of these conventions. You've been in charge of so much stuff with Lucasfilm, whether it's Celebration, San Diego Comic-Con, D23. How does D23 differentiate itself from those other conventions?
I think, well, let me start by saying why I like Celebration so much is it's so fan-driven there. Most of the content comes from the fans themselves. So it's a lot of fans being like, this is what we want to experience, this is what we want to talk about, this is what we want to discuss and get with other fans to discuss. And here, there is some of that, but I think it's really curated by Disney a little bit more. Not to say that that's bad. Like the panel today was amazing. The D+ panel yesterday was also amazing. It's just a different experience. Here you get a lot of flavors, and then at Celebration, obviously it's one flavor, but we try to do that one flavor very, very well.
And I would say absolutely, my gosh, Celebration is the absolute highlight. But this is kind of neat too, because they're both family driven, but this of course not only brings in the Star Wars property, but Marvel and Disney and the animation, and it just is kind of a different, the cosplay is kind of a measure.
I was just going to say, the cosplay here is just amazing how creative. There's so many cool crossovers. There's so many unique takes on characters here. Obviously, the Star Wars community is very creative as well, and Celebration brings out the best cosplayers I've seen. But here, they're working with a bigger pot. And so I saw, I think the winners of the costume contest, the Mouse Parade, yesterday, they made all the Disney princess dresses, and then the dresses were actually on strings, and they could pull them up and then turn into the teacup ride. Yeah, I mean,
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So they were, you do a little dance and show during the Mouse Parade, and they would pull up the dress and then do the spinning and everything like that, and they ended up winning. Or I think they placed second, and I think the person who won, she did the Haunted Mansion ride. Like, you went through the ride on her dress.
Wow.
So,
I was going through security in here, and I heard, excuse me, I turned and it's the bride from the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a little bit, whoa. She said, sorry, and she set up the alarm for security, so that was funny. Probably an axe.
I will say everybody that I've seen and talked to has been in just the best mood. Everybody here, the staff, the security, everybody's just so nice. This just brings out the best in people.
I agree, and there's also, the way it's set up and laid out is great. There's plenty of room. It's Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And there's plenty of room.
Totally. It's coming from San Diego Comic-Con to this, I feel like I can actually move my arms.
Yes. You can actually have a wingspan here. So real close, I know you're busy, you're working, so I really appreciate your time here on the Coffee with Kenobi. But let's think non-Star Wars as we are talking about non-Marvel. Yeah. What was the highlight for you of that incredible panel this morning?
Yeah, Leia and the Last Dragon, I think that's how you say it, right? So. That just totally blew me away. The animation for that was really cool.
Even the mud, actually.
Oh, yeah. And then I'm actually excited about 101 Dalmatians. Emma Stone with that image of Cruella looked really cool.
Yes. And then her attitude, just that little piece that they did just for D23 where she's talking to the dog. You're in my eye line.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great. I would say for me it was seeing the concert of the cast in person. How often do you get to see Idina Menzel and cast sing together live? That was pretty cool.
I unfortunately missed that, but I could hear it from backstage. That scene, I was hearing them rehearse, and it blew me away.
Yeah, this whole thing is incredible. Thank you so much for what you do for us fans and Star Wars. Thanks for being on Coffee with Kenobi, Daniel.
Yeah, no problem. On any time.
We're here with Lauren and Erica, and Disney Parks are helping to create the magic of the Halycon. Am I saying it correctly?
You are saying it correctly.
Tell us about obviously, you say a Star Wars hotel, but that is sort of like saying the Indian Ocean is some water.
Sure. So this is the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser is our official name. But you're correct. We don't like to call it a hotel. We'd like to apply more of an immersive experience.
Yes.
So as a guest, what you can expect is this is coming to Walt Disney World. And as a guest, you will come to Walt Disney World, come to an area in which you will load a launch pod and you will be launched into space. The launch pod will connect to the Halycon, and then you will take off and explore in your Star Wars journey. We're still working through some of those details, but the idea is that you would always stay within the Star Wars universe.
Right. Wow. I have so many questions that come through what you can say. Let's just talk about the model itself. Is this so? Where would guests walk in said spacecraft?
Well, you can't walk in space.
Well, you have to get on it somehow.
That's true. So like Erica mentioned, we are going to have guests board a launch pod that's going to launch you up into space.
Oh, true.
Yes, so you'll be able to see, experience that launch pod experience going up into space, and you'll be docking with the Halycon, which is up above orbiting.
Right.
We are still working through schedule, and we haven't announced a date quite yet. However, as further details come about, they'll be on the Disney Parks page.
Hey, thank you both so much for being on Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Maz is here. That's right, Maz is here from Disney Imagineering. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hello, not the Kanata kind, just the Imagineering kind.
That's right, and this is so fun. You and I were just chatting.
True, but the funny thing is I was pulling up a text just now, and we actually have been in communication since 2016. So we have been through The Force Awakens together. We've been through the announcement of a Mandalorian series coming out. We've seen Batuu come to life. We're going to see Rise of Skywalker. So we've kind of lived our own galactic adventure together through the years. I think what a lot of people sometimes forget that before an attraction or a resort or a park comes to life, it's been in our ideation stage for years sometimes. For instance, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was a 5-year project in the making. So while folks have already experienced it here at Disneyland Resort, and folks are just going to be experiencing it at Walt Disney World, we've all been experiencing it in so many different evolutions and revolutions since the very beginning. And, being able to have a story evolve through many different lenses and from different segments of people coming and working on it is what makes Imagineering so great, because what oftentimes folks don't realize is that Imagineering isn't just construction or engineering. We've got over 100 different disciplines. So if you are an engineer or a tech person, you definitely have a space for us. But if you're an artist or if you're into media relations or landscaping, themed finishes, so imagine the floors of Batuu, somebody had to actually create them. There's all a story and a purpose behind everything that we do. The incredible thing about becoming an Imagineer is that the key things that we look for is, first and foremost, passion. Because everything that we do, we put a piece of our heart into it, because it's a labor of love, both time, both commitment, both in the focus that goes into it. You also have to be completely creative, think outside of the box, think outside of the world sometimes, but yet also be able to recognize that real people need to be in these spaces. So how are we going to bridge what's completely magical with what's in real-time understanding? And then I think this is sort of like the little secret that everybody should know about, whether you're an Imagineer or you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, is just to be patient and be flexible, especially in today's social media climate. Everybody is learning at the same time in a lot of ways. So while it might seem like, oh, these people know more than me, you could be coming from a completely different space of education or experience and be able to bring something to the table that teaches everybody about, what the goal is, or if you come from a different country and you're working on a project overseas, you really have a good insight as to what our guests would want to see. Or if you're a super fan of Star Wars or Marvel, like me and the good folks at Coffee and Kenobi are, you basically get to live your Star Wars and Marvel fantasies every single day in such a different way, because you're thinking about these characters as real people, because once they are in our parks, they are actually real people. We interact with them the way that we would our families and our friends, and a lot of times we have an even more intimate relationship with them. So we want to make sure that we hit all the notes that our fans and our guests like in the way that they would want to have it be developed. We have a phenomenal portfolio team, and they really are what I call the masterminds behind what exactly is the layout of our lands going to be. What are the things that we definitely need to deliver on? What are aspirational projects that we would like to see maybe in blue sky that we can make true? Or what are things that we just want to ideate based on emerging technology that's coming out and see what we can do with it as more technology becomes to evolve. So our portfolio team are the ones that really say, okay, this is what the space is. And then from there, we bring in our story development team, just like on a studio line. And so our studio, Lucasfilm, Karen Beck, who's VP of Live Action and Development, she worked very closely with our managing story editor here at Walt Disney Imagineering, Harrison. They really hammered into, what is it like to be an all-new traveler coming to Batuu? And they really made sure that they took the personal experience of, okay, we've never really seen this in a film. We've read about this very snippet-wise in a book, thanks to Thrawn Alliances. And then we're able to say, okay, but what about somebody who doesn't know about Star Wars? What would they like to discover? So really for somebody who hasn't really walked into the galaxy, or those who, like me, have been there since the beginning, we want to make sure that it's an equal level playing field. And that's really what the story group does, is make sure that they definitely appeal to the core fans, but they're going to introduce the casual fans in a way that's not intimidating. And we want to make sure that we're creating an experience where, the youngest Jedi to, the oldest Imperial could possibly interact with each other in a way that feels natural and organic. So I think, particularly with something like Galaxy's Edge, which is our most immersive land to date, story is everything, but what we don't tell people is that you're actually writing the rest of our story. Every time you interact with a Jedi or a Stormtrooper or Chewie, or even if you look and decide, hey, there's some tracks on the ground. What are they? Is it R2-D2 or is it, a mouse droid? So in some ways, I enjoy just standing back and watching our guests almost mad lib what we've been doing. So we give them the framework, and then they write the story for us. And I think that's so encouraging to people to see that, Disney isn't prescriptive. We're actually, aspirational. So you tell us what you want to, adventure in or journey to, and we will try and help make that magic happen every day. I mean, I honestly say thank you to our guests and thank you for our fans. I'm a guest when I go to our parks. I'm a fan when I'm outside of my work walls. And I say thank you every day to the people who just want to do something a little wacky and a little weird and maybe chart a path that's not conventional, because you enable people like me to be able to live my dream. And so I hope that when I meet people and get to say, come and work for Imagineering, you can do it too. It's not a secret club. Everybody's at Walt, so there's something to learn. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I think it's so important what you do as both a fan and as an educator. I mean, your kids don't know just what a Master Jedi they are learning from, and I just can't say enough about the work that you've done for us in the Star Wars community. So please keep doing the work for us. You are a Jedi, and the Force is very much with you.
Bright suns to you.
Bright suns to you till the spire.
We are back, and after hearing some great interviews from the floor of the D23 Expo, we need to bring in an expert to talk about what goes on at D23, the behind-the-scenes stuff covering this event, and really all the announcements. And those people weren't available, so I have Drew Taylor here with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know what you're talking about, because,
Hey, we kid because we love. It is great to see you, my friend. The only regret I have from D23 is that we couldn't hang out a little bit more.
Well,
we were busy.
Yeah, we were busy, and I don't want to, if you're, a man in need, I want to be sympathetic to that, but I feel like you might have an addiction to Galaxy's Edge. I don't know. I don't even know where these tickets were coming from that you were getting into Galaxy's Edge, but any chance you got, that's where you were.
It's true. I went over there Saturday night. My brother-in-law came up because he works in Hollywood. Actually, you would love him. I need to get you guys to connect. He's awesome. And then Sunday, I went before I caught my plane. And I pretty much had my run of the place. Well, that's not entirely true. I couldn't get into Oga's. And then I noticed that the single rider line for the Falcon, at least on Saturday night, I did that because I thought that'll be quicker. It was the exact same amount of time as the regular line, and I didn't get to see the queue. So I don't know if that's the norm. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I don't know anything about that. I mean, I haven't gone back that many times since our press day back in May.
End of May.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know the total ins and outs, but it seemed like everybody was over there. Everybody that was at D23 was over there. So it doesn't surprise me that it was jam-packed, let's say.
No, it was great. Now, not as jam-packed. The day of this recording is the day that Galaxy's Edge opened in Orlando, Florida. And that looks to be a whopping success, even with the onset of a hurricane coming through.
Yeah, I wish I was down there. I mean, I know you had somebody down there. I'm sure we'll both get down there
for sure
at some point. But it looked like a lot of fun.
5-hour line for the Smuggler's Run.
Yikes!
Yeah, and that was at 5:30 in the morning.
Too much. Yeah, yeah. But it seemed like everything was going very smoothly. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And they even have like those Coke bottles that the TSA is not crazy about they have a big display, including a Coke-colored droid, like an R5 unit droid, which I thought that was pretty cool.
And I think that he moves and stuff. So yeah, pretty cool.
Very, very cool. So let's talk D23. This was my first one. I really liked it. I liked that I could put my arms out on both sides of my body and not run into anyone like at San Diego Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was completely sold out, I feel like it was just a good, healthy atmosphere. And quite honestly, I feel like most of the people there when I was there were either in panels or getting in line for the many, many merchandise opportunities. But what was it like for you being a veteran of these things?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, you always think that you're going to have more time to like walk around and do things than you actually end up doing. But, I thought it was a good mix of things. Obviously, the Disney Plus stuff was super exciting. But, for you, it must have been fun because Star Wars kind of like touched every part of the company that they were kind of like getting out there this year, whether it was parks or consumer products or Disney Plus or theatrical. So,
although I will say, I want to know what you think about this because while, Star Wars, of course, is at the forefront of my focus, I'm a big fan of these other properties. I'm definitely a massive Disney fan and have been on my whole life, as of you. And then, of course, I absolutely love Marvel. But I feel like Marvel kind of cast a shadow over everything. And I feel like when they would mention Star Wars, it was always the first thing. But then they always say, yeah, we'll come back to that later. But they didn't spend as much time on it. And I almost wondered if that is sort of a sign of where the focus of the company is going. I don't know. I know they really want to hype up for the Rise of Skywalker. But what did you think?
Yeah, I didn't think it was as focused. I don't know. Just coming from Comic-Con in July and having that giant presentation where they went through every single Marvel property of the next 2 years in kind of forensic detail, it didn't feel that Marvel focused to me. There were more things to announce, I guess.
Disney Plus,
Marvel.
I guess, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That introducing 3 new shows after you've introduced all those other shows that were at Comic-Con was pretty big.
That was genius.
And then having the Black Panther 2 release date announcement was fun. But yeah, I think that if you got that impression, it was only because the Disney Studios panel on Saturday was super awkwardly paced, I thought, and super awkwardly like structured. Mm-hmm. And I think that could have maybe given Marvel more weight than they had. I just thought it was sort of weird that they had the Marvel and Star Wars announcements at the start of the panel when it really felt more like a climax to me.
Sure, but then you've also got, this is also a year when Frozen 2 is coming out, and that's going to be, of course, massive. So I'm sure that's what their focus.
Yeah, it was just sort of a letdown. Like, we've got another Frozen coming out. It's like, that's great, and I understand that that's a huge priority company wide, but having a little sing along at the end was not the kind of dynamic finish that you would have thought.
I guess if I was structuring it, I probably would have had Star Wars, probably not last, because Frozen is a little more coming out a little more soon, I guess, and reaches even more up people than Star Wars. Probably, I don't know, but I would think Star Wars would be at least towards the end. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. Especially with that awesome new footage that obviously everyone has seen by now.
Oh yes. Oh, that was fantastic. In fact, we just did a special show just for that, which I'm hoping that everyone has heard or downloaded by now, because it was exciting. And I'm not sure. I'm sure you're getting on this question a lot, but I continue to get asked, "Do you think Rey's turning bad?" What I think is I saw 2 seconds of incredibly surprising and jaw-dropping footage, and I can't wait to see what else is going to happen. That's kind of my stance on it.
I can tell you what it is if you really want to know. But
I really don't.
Okay.
Oh, it appears we're getting a disconnect.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of the reason they showed that footage is so they could sell that lightsaber on Force Friday. And maybe that's a very cynical, thought of mine.
I've never thought of you as cynical. Never, sir. How dare you?
Well, maybe it's just knowing how the sausage is made, but I don't know.
So listeners of Coffee with Kenobi, of course, are very familiar with Drew, but especially if you're a listener of the Jim Hill Media Network,
something that the two of us like to do, and I don't even remember how it got started. Actually, I do know. I think you made some kind of a crack about am I finally caught up with Star Wars Resistance yet? And this is before I'd ever talked to you before.
Yes.
And I remember thinking that was very amusing and funny. I'm like, well, I guess I will follow this guy on Twitter. He keeps pinging me.
Yeah.
So we have this thing where we like to give each other, have little fun Easter eggs on each other's shows. And it's quite entertaining. And it's always fun because Jim's always a little thrown by it.
Yes. He's always like, Old Man Hill, gets, if you kind of throw him off his script, he gets a little discombobulated, which is great. I think, you got to keep him on his toes.
That's right. That guy's at the top of his game. So we don't want him to get bored.
No, absolutely not. But he wasn't at D23, so we had to represent.
That's right. And represent, we did. I believe I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway because some of our listeners don't know. Did you sign up for Disney Plus?
Oh yeah, I'm a charter member. I've got my pin. I think it's going to be a great service, and obviously between the Mandalorian and the as yet untitled Cassian Andor and Obi-Wan series, it's going to be good for Star Wars fans everywhere.
So I asked Corey and Tom this. I'm going to ask you, of the Mandalorian, the Cassian Andor series, and Kenobi, which of those three are you most looking forward to and why?
I think I'm most looking forward to Mandalorian just because it's a new corner of the Star Wars universe that we haven't really explored. We're familiar with the other characters. I'm really excited for the Cassian Andor show. I'm not as enraptured with an Obi-Wan series, and I know that's going to be heresy for everyone who's listening. But
yes,
I just feel like, part of me is very excited because I feel like Ewan McGregor has some things to work through with that character that he obviously hasn't done, given how shoddy the material of the prequels was. And I feel like I want him to embrace that on a better and bigger level. But, if that stuff has also been, I feel, so thoroughly mined in the Clone Wars. And was he in Rebels or no? No. He wasn't in Rebels.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is in one episode of Rebels.
With the Darth Maul one?
Yes, that was more Alec Guinness, voiced by Stephen Stanton in that one.
Yes. So I feel like we kind of have that period of his life covered pretty well. So I think that Mandalorian looks very cool. It looks like a sort of new approach. I love the directors that they've lined up for the episodes. But yeah, I'm excited about everything. I'm really excited to see how they're going to do the Cassian Andor show, where one character is a ILM created droid.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. I guess they're going to, maybe they've streamlined that technology. Obviously ILM is involved in all these shows, but it'll be really interesting to see.
The thing about those three shows, and Kenobi is one I'm the most excited about, and it's not just because of the title of the show. Because people ask me all the time, is Obi-Wan Kenobi your favorite character? He's actually not, but I would say he's probably top 5. But I'm most excited for that, and I do agree. I think it's tricky. The most important thing to me is not quantity, it's quality. So if there is a good story to tell that actually adds to this mythology and is not just there just to make a quick buck, then I am all for it. There have been a few comic books that have certainly explored some of the area where he is on Tatooine. But I think if done right, maybe even showing him learn how to commune with the Force with Qui-Gon like they did in John Jackson Miller's, Legends line book Kenobi, that could be great. And I'm the least excited for the Mandalorian, and it's not because the footage doesn't look great, because I think it does look great. I honestly think there's this part of me that wants a little more light and hope in the universe, especially when things can get challenging in the real world. And when I say that, it's not because I'm depressed or sad. I'm a very happy guy, but I like Captain America. Right.
You want to escape.
I like Superman. I like the hope. I want an escape. I want to do a lot of smiling and oohing and eyeing and things like that. And the Mandalorian may very well deliver, but it seems to be more emphasizing the seedy underbelly of the galaxy and gangster type stuff. And that's never really been my thing unless it's The Godfather, the actual Godfather film. But I will certainly, of course, watch it with bated breath, and we will cover it extensively on Coffee with Kenobi. Probably have you on to analyze one of the shows. I think that would be fun. That. Yeah. But I don't know. The buzz certainly is huge for it. There is no doubt about that.
It's going to be what I like about it too is that they're doing them weekly, so that we'll have stuff to talk about every week. You know what I mean?
I think that's brilliant. I love that because you can savor it. It's like a nice, slow, steady burn instead of just like this huge flash. And we use this example on the last show, but Stranger Things, when it comes out, we love it. We're obsessed with it. We jump in. But if you don't get on it right away, it's going to be spoiled for you, or it will also fizzle out because something will replace it. But with a weekly show coming out for all these Disney Plus shows, you can sustain that excitement, and I like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about Stranger Things too, and when they announced that, because I mean, I would have loved to have. I loved this new season. I thought it was the best one yet, and I would have loved to have just kept that going all summer. But then I think back to it, and I was like, oh, I watched that in 2 days. Yeah, over the 4th of July holiday, and then it was gone. And then that bums me out a lot because I loved that world so much, and I would have loved. I also loved the idea that everyone is time with binging. You'll see an article written about the last episode 2 hours after it started streaming in your neck of the woods or whatever. So I really like the idea of that the cultural conversation is on the same page for 8 weeks or whatever it ends up being. That's really exciting to me.
Completely agree. And what do you think about the fact that we will have no R-rated things on Disney Plus?
I can't believe that anyone would expect anything R-rated to be on Disney Plus. There was discussion early on, and they kind of had these internal debates about what do we put on. And I think the closest R-rated thing that came to being on Disney Plus was Pretty Woman. So which, and that's pretty Disney. I mean, yes, she's a hooker and whatever, but that's pretty Disney. But even that, they said, no, we're gonna kick that to Hulu. So, I mean, if there wasn't another Disney streaming platform that we are all already signed up for, I would be more sort of confused. But that's where Hulu, if you want to see Con Air, it'll be on Hulu, or Pulp Fiction, or whatever the Disney R-rated Disney movie of your choice. Will be on there. And I'm not sure anyone was expecting some gritty, hard R thing. I mean, there's amputations in Star Wars. It looks like somebody gets cut in half in Mandalorian, but it'll still be, if it's bloody, it'll be green blood or something. So
I've got 3 letters, H, B, and O. I mean, come on, that's where you can go for that stuff. I think it's
great. The Boys on Amazon, which is very violent and very good. Or there's a lot of options.
There are plenty of options for those who like that sort of thing, and that's fine, But Disney Plus, Disney. We're getting the premiere of a live action Lady and the Tramp film. We don't need that. I'm very at peace with that, and I don't think it's going to hurt Disney's bottom line at all.
Me too. I didn't understand the uproar at all. Yeah. People were like, "Oh, Deadpool." It's like Deadpool. I don't think will ever be a part of the main Marvel continuity. He'll always be on the side. I don't know. It felt very kind of weird to me. They're selling this. One of the main draws of this platform is a High School Musical series and a live action Lady and the Tramp. Where this R-rated stuff was supposed to fit in. I don't know. And it's not like the R-rated stuff has been their bread and butter for a long time, because it hasn't. I can't remember the last R-rated movie that Disney actually released that was a Disney movie. So, I don't know.
Was it Tangled, or am I thinking of something?
It was, yeah. Surprisingly violent, Tangled.
Don't mess with the hair.
No.
Let's shift our attention to the theme parks. Mm-hmm. I understand. Well, I'm not even going to introduce it. You tell me your overall impressions of that panel and the excitement or the criticism of that experience.
I don't know. I'm trying to be as
here for you.
I'm trying to be as non-emotional, as intellectual as I can be, and not emotional about this.
And a critical thinker and intellectually honest. There you go.
Right.
Yes.
But I was pretty taken aback by that Parks panel. I as someone who grew up, and I know you feel similarly to me about our shared love of Epcot Center.
Yes.
And the idea that you can go to a park that is a science and discovery park that there aren't characters around every corner. And I remember as a child, the thrill of even finding a toy with Mickey in his silver spacesuit with the rainbow on the chest, and how that made me feel.
Yes.
And there were original characters. Figment didn't exist until Epcot. Right. Captain EO didn't exist until Epcot. It's like Smarty, the little purple robot that was at Communicore, did not exist until Epcot. All these characters came out of Epcot. So for the kind of overarching theme to be, we're shoving a bunch of characters in here and we're sort of like giving Spaceship Earth a new paint job, it was kind of like, ooh, okay, this is what you've got. Like, and especially because we both visited the Imagineering Pavilion throughout the course of the thing, and it was like so celebratory of the past Epcot kind of like accomplishments.
Ironic, I guess.
Ironic. It really felt like a funeral, or like a real goodbye to that that idea of this kind of like futuristic city. And I understand corporate concerns. I understand that this is going to be the festival park, where they didn't say this during the presentation, but every day of the year we'll have some festival in Epcot. So 365, there will be a festival going on at Epcot. Okay, I get it. And Ratatouille being in France, that's great. I mean, that to me is like, oh yeah, well, he is in France already. Like, that's not a huge leap, or Mary Poppins in England, which was another one of the ideas. But it's also just like, I wanted some of that magic from the 80s to be recaptured or reignited in some way of, learning and new IP and futurism. It just, it really made my heart sink. But, I look forward to whatever they're doing and what that transformation will look like. But it was just a little bit of a bummer.
There were many years where I was afraid that nothing was going to happen to Epcot, and it was just going to be the little engine that could. I mean, there were significant sections of real estate in that park, especially, mostly Future World, where it was storage or just corporate stuff. And it wasn't even open to guests anymore. The Odyssey restaurant, or, the Body Pavilion. I don't know why.
The Wonders of Life. Yeah.
Wonders of Life. Yes. And the Journey into the Imagination area, that when that first came out, that was great. And then they had that horrific movie that Eric Idle was a part of, it just kind of went downhill quickly. There's just a lot of areas there where they could do something, but I do agree. It would be nice to see something that didn't have an intellectual property attached to it. But like you said, the corporate thing obviously is important. I have no idea what Epcot's attendance has been like over the years. I am very excited about the things that they're doing. But I would like to see some.
Are you really like? What do you excited? It's like,
you know what I like? And my wife teases me about this all the time. I like fresh paint, literally fresh. I like new things. I like stuff. I mean, obviously, my gosh, I love Star Wars. That's all about nostalgia. But I like the fact, I love Spaceship Earth. When I heard that was changing, at first I was like, oh, come on, please don't do that to me. But then they said it was about story. And I teach literature. And I thought, if they do this right, this could be miraculous. I don't need a bunch of Disney characters
in there. That's the key thing.
I mean,
there are a bunch of Disney. There's going to be Moana. They showed concept art of Moana inside Spaceship Earth.
Right. And honestly, for my money, Moana is one of the best movies overall in any genre of the past 10 years. I think that movie's great.
I love Moana.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it was like,
let's keep something pure.
Yeah, like even that waterway type thing, which is so funny that they're saying it's the first Moana attraction. It's like, really? You put the little swirly logo on a water fountain, and that's it. But I mean, to me, that was sort of interesting. Like, you'll see the different kind of like waterways, and it all leads to the living seas, or the seas with Nemo and friends, as it's called.
Yeah, we don't want it to be a gimmick. It better serve the greater plan for that theme park, which was to showcase the future, and then you go into World Showcase, and you get to celebrate these different countries. Yeah. And I mean, I guess they need to put some more stuff back there for a while. But as a grown-up, and of course I can only speak to that because I'm a grown up now. Even with kids, future or World Showcase is gorgeous. It's the absolute. And I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to do this with your lovely bride yet, but World Showcase is the best place to go on a date with your spouse.
I agree.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
For our honeymoon, Deanna and I we went to one country and had a glass of wine. Went to another. We had dessert. Went somewhere else. We had, appetizers. And it's just absolutely gorgeous there. So hopefully we can still keep that flavor alive.
Yeah. To me, it was just like you're shortchanging the IP and you're shortchanging the attraction. If you're just going to slap water walkway thing, it's like, it's sort of like it's neither fish nor fowl kind of situation. But
nice.
The other thing I would be curious to hear your idea on this, but like, how much space do we need in one park between Mission Space, the Space Restaurant, the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster, Spaceship Earth, and then you've got Star Wars at a park right next door? It's like this is a lot of. We're spending a lot of time in outer space here.
I was wondering kind of about that too. I mean, is that sort of like an attempt at the Living Seas, which is sort of a different? I mean, it honestly, all they can do is get new carpet in the Living Seas. That would have been better,
right? Well, they had to put Nemo all over there.
True.
I don't know.
I do want to do kind of a wait and see attitude. I'm certainly feel a little bit more optimistic about than you do, but I completely respect and understand where you're coming from, because I very much like Epcot. The whole idea of sort of would you say a funeral for Epcot? I think that's interesting, because I looked at it as, in their mind, Epcot was always about progress and look at where we used to be, and here's where we're going, and this is where we're going to go even more in the future. So I'm hopeful that they will do that, because I wanted them to do something with Epcot for a long time. Now, the scaredy cat in me is nervous about the Guardians roller coaster, because I don't like those launches, and then I have to go backwards. What are you doing to me?
I think you're gonna be great. Obviously, the other big part of the presentation was the Star Wars hotel, which I think sounds really interesting. It sounds sort of like a lot of the things that we were promised for Galaxy's Edge, but are now going to pay $3,500 a person for.
Well,
which that I kind of have an issue with. It's like, wait a minute, dinner theater, characters that recognize your progress, an entire experience, sort of closed loop experience. Wait a minute, this was supposed to be
the Magic
Galaxy's
fans
Edge.
At Disney World are going to address a lot of those things.
They are, but at the same time, like, cast members dressed up as aliens or droids,
yes,
it is only going to happen in that hotel. Things like that. It's just it's interesting. It's neither good nor bad. It's just sort of like, oh, okay. So when things get too expensive and you cut them from the kind of like output for everybody, then it kind of goes into this exclusive corridor where you have to pony up for, the kind of like 2-day experience or whatever it is. Were you surprised by how short it was?
No, I think 2 nights in 3 days is pretty reasonable, considering what you're being asked to do. I mean, there's only so long you can play in that universe without having to take care of real things. Do you know what I mean? And if it's even longer, it's going to be that much more expensive. I like the notion. I mean, honestly, when I looked at this and I looked at the building, and I interviewed the Imagineers, as we heard earlier on today's show, I was just floored by this in such a weird way. Like, this is taking Galaxy's Edge, which is already this, a far superior product, as Disney World crowds are showing us, and what you and I have already known. I mean, that in California, it's great too, but I think they did such a great job. And, I've talked about this, of telling people, hey, it's going to be really, really busy. You got to be careful. So that kind of worked against them in a way. But this is taking the Galaxy's Edge concept and taking it to another level. And immersion is nice. But even when I was at Galaxy's Edge on Sunday in California, I heard people complaining and saying, enough of this, I'm out of here. because they didn't like the Batuian speak, and they didn't like that the menu didn't say chicken nuggets, and they were frustrated by some things. So this is a way to take it to a whole other level and guarantee that people are not going to necessarily feel that way. Because if you're spending that kind of money for that kind of Star Wars experience, then you know very much what you're getting into. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. This is for the
This is for
addicts.
me. It's for me.
For people who really want to be immersed, because you're right. I mean, some people want to just be told where the bathroom is.
That's right.
And some people want to know where the refreshers are located.
That's right.
And this experience is for the second type of people.
Right.
And I think you're going to get a higher level of sort of immersion. You're going to be able to afford like entertainment cast members instead of just hourly cast members. You know, you're going to have the droids and the creatures and the dinner theater, and it's going to be catered to you in a way that if you were just let loose in a theme park area, you couldn't achieve.
Right.
You know, so that's what I'm really interested in. I'm sure I would love to go. I hope I get to go one day. I'm sure it'll be many years before, because there's so few rooms in this thing. But I also think 2 days and 2 nights is an appropriate amount of time to be deprived of natural light and authentic human interaction.
Right. No,
I think those port days are going to be real attractive after about 6 hours inside that thing with no windows.
I'm wondering how it's going to be handled with the fact that you can go over to Batu and how that's going to be a part of your journey. Because, I mean, you're already paying for the experience of being in the Halcyon anyway. Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser, I believe it's called. So I wonder how they're going to balance it out. But I mean, this thing is just beyond my wildest dreams.
It looks really special.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really does.
Unlike anything that's ever been attempted in a way.
Right, and I hope it's an incredible success. It's very pricey, and I understand people's frustration about that. I certainly empathize with that as well. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows how we're going to handle it?
The pressure is somewhat lessened because, you know,
it's
I don't know, it's smaller, and you're not the perceived failure or success is not going to impact the entire resort in the way that the somewhat troubled opening of Galaxy's Edge out here, you know, affected Disneyland resort ticket sales or whatever. You know, it's a little bit more of a contained scenario. And, you know, maybe, and the other thing is that the amount of data that's going to be mined from this thing is like insane. You know, the amount of like customization and also application of that data to other parts of the Disney machine is going to be really interesting. Because, I mean, they flat out told us in that presentation, you know, your every second will be, you know, tracked and recorded and documented and all that stuff. It's like, whoa, okay.
One thing is being compared to a cruise without water, but at least on a cruise you have time to relax. I wonder if that's an option on here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying $3,500 for a 2-day experience, are you going to be so consumed with getting every dollar out of that price point that you just like don't have a time to crack open a book? Perhaps.
And to be fair, they haven't actually said yet the prices. Am I right?
That's true. This is all conjecture. Right. Yeah, I mean, I love the Disney cruises, but I also love just sitting by the pool for untold hours, you know.
Yes, I remember Paul Rudd's book. He said he's a big fan of sitting, but he's even more of a fan of laying down. The older I get, the more I can respect that comment.
Yeah, but it was a big weekend for Star Wars stuff. It was interesting too to hear them kind of like recontextualize the Galaxy's Edge experience, because it has not been without its hiccups, certainly. But the footage shown from Rise of the Resistance looked amazing. And
well, Lisa got to walk through the one of the parts of the attraction. She got to go in the Star Destroyer hangar, and she told me that it is just unbelievable.
Like the scale is just insane.
Yes, it's going to be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's always mind-blowing to have a conversation with you, my friend. You are is always entertaining and delightful. And
Are we done already?
We're done already. Yeah, the coffee's getting cold, and I'm going to go start. I'm going to start selling lemonade so I can get 2 nights at the Halycon.
I know.
Yeah, it's a lot of lemonade, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah, it'll be very worth it. So tell everybody about Light the Fuse, fine tuning, and all the great stuff you got going on at Moviefone too.
Yeah, well, you'll appreciate this, Dan. We've talked to this guy. You might actually follow him on Twitter. If you don't, you should. His name is Todd Vaziri.
Yeah,
and he does a lot of great stuff. He's a ILM guy and has worked on, I think, Star Wars movies, but he also worked on Mission Impossible 3 and Mission Impossible 4. So we had him on Light the Fuse, which is the only real Mission Impossible-centered podcast online. There's a Minute Impossible podcast, but it's not that great. But, we're chatting before it. He's working on Rise of Skywalker, and, I think the trailer, the D23 clip had come out online earlier that day, so we were talking about that for a second. And he said he worked on Rise of the Resistance for 8 months, doing visual effects for that. So if ILM is fully on board this project, and so I just thought you would appreciate that.
No, it's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, and then I'm on fine tuning with Jim. I mean, listen, don't listen, whatever. You can listen, and I'll always be giving Dan grief on there. So if you want to hear that, that's great. And then I'm an executive editor at Moviefone and posting every day on that. So. It. That's all
sometimes,
to it.
And sometimes you sleep and eat too.
Sometimes I sleep and eat. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything going on that I can plug, but no. Part of me wants to go on Jim's Universal trip in November and just heckle him the entire time. Can't do that.
That might be entertaining. Well, hey, Drew, thanks so much for coming back to Coffee with Kenobi. Love to have you on anytime.
I'm going to be here. I like to think of myself as an unofficial co-host.
There you go. Well, I will send out the jacket, the orange blazer. Yes.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.